Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Planted Unearthed. My name's Sam Peters, I'm one of the co-founders of Planted, the first contemporary design show aimed at reconnecting cities with nature. We're here with Marcus Fairs, the founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen, and I'm absolutely delighted to say, Marcus, that we are in partnership for the purposes of this first inaugural Planted event. So first of all, thanks for joining us, thanks for collaborating with us. It's something we're delighted to be part of. And could you say a little bit about what it was that interested you in Planted and working with us?
Well, one of the topics that our readers are most interested in at the moment, and one that us as journalists are most interested in, is of course the environment, sustainability, biodiversity, and I think this notion of having to, with the climate crisis and the pollution crisis and all the problems we're facing in the world, this idea that civilization and cities is one thing and nature is something else, it has to end. We have to bring the two together. There's been a lot of talk about how to bring biodiversity in cities, like with green skyscrapers and rewilding projects and things like that. And then when I first heard about Planted, it seemed like there was a sort of a trade show that was going in the same direction. So in terms of content, there's a definite coming together of interest there, but also consumers and customers want to know that brands are moving forwards in terms of their sustainability credentials. I mean, the days when you could just bullshit about recyclable this, that and the other are over. Brands really need to kind of demonstrate that they're becoming less carbon intensive or less polluting or whatever. They can't just greenwash their way out of trouble.
Dezeen have always been seen as a kind of trend-setting and ahead of their time in what you guys do. Clearly analysing data for media organisations, indeed for any organisation really, is increasingly interesting. You obviously measure the traffic and where people look and what your readers and audience are looking for. And are you finding that these kind of stories and around sustainability and around the environment are gaining more and more traction?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Some of the most popular stories we've written about in the last few months have been particularly about green architecture, the idea that you can, skyscrapers that are covered in trees and things like that. People are really looking for better solutions, but we can't always be led by what our readers want. We have to put things in front of them that maybe initially they find a little bit difficult to get, and then becomes part of the conversation over time. And with sustainability, we've seen that with the ocean pollution. We've seen that with the whole notion of the Anthropocene era, whereby human activity is changing our planet. We've seen that. It takes a while for these conversations to become embedded in people's minds. But also people are confused. They want to be able to make decisions. They want to be more environmentally friendly consumers, but they walk into the supermarket and they see a wall of plastic, and it's really hard. It's really hard. So I think the design world in general, the brands and definitely the journalists, part of our job is to demystify all of this and call out the nonsense and then highlight the good.
Interesting. Speaking, you're sat in front of the planted wall over here, and the fact that the company that we've worked with in Stormboard to actually build our Planted slogan and Planted graphics they use single-use plastic, they heat it up and they put it back together and they produce this really effective board. As a journalist at heart, what would be the things that you would look out for, the sort of pitfalls that you would say, well, you mentioned the bullshit, where would you see the sort of look for holes to expose as such, if that's the right question?
Well, I think it's really important to say it's not easy.
No.
I mean, you think you've solved one problem and then you create another one. I mean, the whole issue of plastic, so the public's imagination has been captured by things like plastic pollution in the ocean. And then, so any brand that was claiming to be using plastic that had been taken out of the ocean, hooray, we're saving the turtles.
Yeah.
But it's actually almost impossible to recycle plastic that's actually in the ocean. When you talk about ocean plastic, that we're really talking about plastic that would have ended up in the ocean if it hadn't have been taken out of a bin or picked up off the beach or intercepted in a river or whatever. And then the whole notion of, well, hang on, why are we using plastic in the first place? Because some people say we have to find alternatives to plastic, but plastic is a miracle material. So what could possibly take the place of plastic? So it's for sure there's no easy solutions. I think though that what the design world should be focusing on is promoting nature. Nature is an incredible force that can kind of look after itself. If we lose biodiversity, if we lose species, if we lose forests, we're really in trouble. So anything that can help to promote biodiversity, to encourage more bees and insects and other kinds of wildlife is a good thing.
And in terms of what Dezeen are doing, I mean, have you looked at sustainable practices within the business as well?
Yeah, we've audited our business. We had a conference last year, and I think it was the first conference ever that calculated its own carbon emissions.
Nice.
And we're going to then offset those emissions by working with a tree planting organisation. But then that's riddled with difficulties as well, because it's very easy to sort of wash away your guilt by saying we're going to plant some trees, but you know that those emissions have already happened, and those trees, are they the right kind of trees? Who's going to look after them? How do we know they're going to grow, and so on and so forth? So like I said, it's not easy, but at least the conversation is happening and the questions are being asked.
And lastly for me, appreciate your time, Marcus, but in terms of the brands that you, in the design world, that you are really interested in at the moment, that are in this space around connecting with nature and who proven sustainable practices, who are the sort of setting the bar essentially for you guys in terms of that space?
I think you have to point to Vestre as being like an absolute standout
and you're
example.
sitting on their chair indeed.
Yeah, I mean they are committed to sustainability. They're based in Norway, and yet they have a factory that's powered by solar power in the summer months. The sun hardly rises in the winter. They had a stand at Stockholm Design Fair this year, which was completely going to be reused. They were going to not recycle, but reuse everything several times. All of their products are designed to be circular. They're really leading the way, actually, and they're, as you can see, they last forever.
Super quality, aren't they? And that was an unprompted, unplanted question around a planted wall, but fantastic that you should call out Vestre, who are indeed one of the first partners, and we identified them as well as being a really fantastic brand to work with, as our benchmark indeed, who are on the Dezeen and planted collaboration online, which everybody can go and look at. But for now, Marcus, great to have you on board, great to speak to you today, and as I say, we're just great to be really delighted to be partnering with Dezeen.
Yeah, likewise, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, we will.